Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. It's claimed a child who died in the state's northwest was at the centre of a child safety system failure. Explosive allegations aired in Parliament today, with the government under fire over critical staff shortages.
A 4-year-old's death in Smithton on Friday rocked the northwest coast. It's now alleged he was under the eye of child safety services.
Can you confirm that despite the child safety having been assessed a number of times over the last few years, there was an open, unactioned case?
Due to confidentiality, as the matter is before the court, I'm unable to comment further at this time.
Children and Youth Minister Roger Yench under fire in question time amid prolonged staffing troubles, with 60% of positions in the northwest unfilled.
You have for years known the workforce shortages in child safety, which are placing children at further risk.
There have been times when there have been hundreds, if not 1,000 calls waiting to be answered. We know that cases are not investigated around the times that they should be.
Acknowledging wages are a critical tool in recruitment, the government's now looking to bring in a market allowance.
We are investing in child safety services and will continue to invest.
Early work has begun for the new youth detention centre at Pontville. Pressure mounting on the government over high detainee numbers at the current site and the conditions they face.
This staff to child ratio only allows the children 1 hour of outside access a day. What is therapeutic about that?
In order to maintain the safety of the young people in Ashley, we've had to change the program.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The state's forestry wars are heating up as more protesters take up the fight, calling for an urgent end to native logging. The latest round of action coming in the wake of a nasty on-water clash, seeing climate activists and fired-up boaties face off.
A community flotilla copping a physical and verbal spray. Dozens of activists staging a floating protest on the Arthur River met with a different fight on Sunday morning. The group claims motorboats approached them, hurling abuse.
There were homophobic slurs directed at some people, there were racial slurs, there was foul language used in front of children.
The Bob Brown Foundation protest meeting with on-water hostility as it powers up the fight against logging in the Takina-Tarkine.
People who are engaged in peaceful protests should not be subjected to the kind of aggression.
Tasmania Police says it's investigating the incident. At this stage, one person has been identified and will be proceeded against. Elsewhere, community activists are standing in solidarity, holding nationwide action today.
Protesting against the logging of our native forests in an area just on the banks of the Arthur River, on the northern end of Takina.
Spotlighting the plight of the Tasmanian masked owl, fighting to protect its natural habitat from further destruction.
Right now, machines are pushing over habitat that is critical for the survival of this species.
The forestry fight far from over. Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
6,500 Tasmanians have signed a petition in support of Devarshi Decker, the Indian student who was allegedly attacked in Hobart and left paralysed. The Greens tabled the petition today, urging the Premier to help him remain in Australia permanently to receive medical care.
We all want to support Dave and his family, and it's really great to hear that the Premier is going to do everything he can.
Jeremy Rockcliffe has expressed his sympathy, saying he's happy to represent Mr Decker to the federal government. Concerns have been raised after Kingborough was listed as a potential hotspot for tap water containing dangerous chemicals carcinogenic to humans. It's raised alarm from some toxicologists, but TasWater insists its own testing has found no traces.
We should be very concerned when you have a chemical known to cause cancer, known to cause liver and kidney disease.
We're currently doing testing that will cover 90% of our drinking water, and we found no PFAS detected at all.
TasWater says it will continue extensive monitoring and will respond to any changes which might occur. Many Tasmanians have woken up to a snowy surprise with the state given a dusting early this morning. The Great Lakes Hotel at Mayina posting photos of its fall, while visitors to Cradle Mountain Wilderness Village declared winter is here. Snow fell to around 600 metres. Canunny Mount Wellington also receiving a dusting, and Murph will have more details on our cold snap a little later tonight. A parliamentary inquiry will look at school bullying after a successful motion by Christy Johnston. Supported by all parties, it will study bullying, harassment, discrimination and more.
If discrimination and bullying is allowed to occur in Tasmanian schools in young people's formative years, it normalises that behaviour for later years.
The Australian Council for Educational Research says Tasmania has the highest rates of bullying in the country. A growing number of rural medical centres across the state are reducing hours or closing entirely. For a small town outside Hobart, the nightmare is becoming real, with an ageing community battling dire GP shortages.
For Brett, accessing medical help is vital. So he's concerned not just for himself, but also for the town, after their local GP will operate only 2 days a week from next Monday.
It's an essential service in a small town like this. And the flow on from this is it's going to affect the chemist. And it just rolls on to every little business in the town.
Geeveston Medical Centre, the latest to fall victim to the state's GP shortage crisis. With no local staff, it leaves the community on edge.
We know there's a lot of older, people that do live in the area, and they just rely so heavily.
They're forcing people from these little country areas to move into the big city areas just for the health services.
If something does happen, we haven't got a doctor around to help us.
The Huon Valley Council say there are simply not enough GPs to help those living outside of Tasmania's major cities.
Looking at the future, we're saying now that we're 2 days. If we can get another doctor, we will employ another doctor.
With a seemingly long wait until more doctors become available.
The time to grow a general practitioner is in the order of 8 to 10 years. So, we're not going to see that number of GPs that we need for at least another sort of 10 years, I think, at this stage.
The federal government, who funds GPs and primary healthcare services, says they're working closely with the general practice in order to come to a solution.
The flow on is just ridiculous. I don't think anybody's really thought about it too hard.
While those in rural communities await action. Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
Harness racing stakeholders have lashed management of their sport as integrity issues continue to plague it. They say it's hit a new low, with the subject of a drug investigation allowed back into the fold.
Sick of their sport in the news for all the wrong reasons.
95% of the industry to be honest, are up in arms about the performance of Office of Racing Integrity, and this is probably the low point.
Driver Robert Walters has been stood down for failing to provide a urine sample. As the holder of a Victorian trainer's licence, the Tasmanian Office of Racing Integrity has granted him permission to act as a trainer here. Adding to concerns, he's taken ownership of some Yole Stables horses. In the wake of the Murray report, Tas Racing introduced a 4-horse per race limit for trainers to encourage competition and manage the risk of race fixing.
You've got to be in fairyland if you believe that this is not designed to go around that rule.
A couple of months, we're heading in the right direction. Many more trainers winning races, sharing it around, and many more people participating.
Ben Yole says the horses and Robert Walters won't be under his direction. Robert Walters was contacted for comment. This decision and prolonged fallout from other integrity issues sparking anger.
In my view, the Director of Racing shouldn't stay in his position after making a decision like this.
I'm fed up with the government's attitude towards racing. We are not getting any help whatsoever.
Asking for the decision to be overturned, reforms to disband the Office of Racing Integrity and create a new watchdog inside Tas Racing are currently before Parliament, but enacting them could take months.
And the industry can't afford to go down that track. This is a matter of urgency that needs to be dealt with now.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
It's officially the eve of Tasmania's favourite cold weather big dinner, the final preparations for Winter Feast, taking place today before the hungry masses descend. But it's bittersweet for the dark fringe, forced to cancel just days out.
Despite some dark mofo festivities taking a year off, Winter Feast is once again ready to dish delights.
Nepalese food, Ethiopian food. We've got a beautiful new sparkling wine bar by Joseph Burton as well. So lots for everyone.
75 stalls setting up today, 25 included for the first time. International guest chef Vaughan Mabee flying in to feed the masses alongside Mona's Vince Trim.
We're doing like a mega barbecue. We're cooking whole animal. We're going to serve it more like in a fine dining realm, but rustic, perfectly cooked, something wild from around the island.
For the dark fringe, it's a different story. Organisers forced to cancel its major events, including Rattleground and Crystal Ball, arguing dollars and efforts have been wasted. They say the government failed to meet them halfway with funding.
We thought it was an opportunity for real good local talent to fill the gap and bring down people from Melbourne and Sydney. And it would have activated the city, definitely. It's a shame.
The state government says despite repeated requests, festival organisers failed to submit an application on time. They still offered $200,000, but that figure was rejected. Traders still hoping for strong numbers.
Last year's Winter Feast brought in $54 million in economic benefit.
The feast officially begins tomorrow. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmanian News.
A flock of Tasmanian birds is preparing to take flight. A range of native species alongside their nests and eggs are being digitised, added to QV Mag's 3D online natural science collection, giving the public and scientists a behind-the-scenes look at items not currently on display.
Helps us look after the specimens into the future, while at the same time allowing the most number of people to be able to see them.
The latest editions will go live soon, with plans to further expand the online collection. For many of us, going for a walk is a great way to stay fit and active, but a former Tasmanian Premier is taking it to the next level. Peter Gutwein has hit the halfway mark on a mammoth walk from Burnie to Hobart, calling on the community to step up for migrants.
Rugged up and ready to take on whatever Tassie's weather has to offer.
I must admit at times it's been a brutal day today.
Peter Gutwein's on the walk of a lifetime and bringing Tasmanians along for the ride, raising awareness of the contributions migrants make to our community.
I've spoken to people who are building their lives in Tasmania, and at the same time they're building Tasmania.
The trek drawing supporters at the halfway mark. Joining the crowd, the first Sikh family to make Tasmania home. Kulwant Singh Dillon migrated with his wife in 1969.
And she said there's no better place than Tasmania. I used to joke with her. I said, she put me on a little island you can't escape now.
Local business also limbering up for a small portion of the journey, along with Perth primary school students who braved the cold in support of their classmates.
I don't think speaking a different language matters. It's about being friends and the love that matters.
The former Premier still has a long road ahead, but it hasn't been a lonely one, with friendly faces sharing their stories along the way.
It has been the most uplifting experience that I've had to date in my life.
He's expecting to cross the finish line in Hobart on Sunday. Annie Green, 7 Tasmanian News.
The world's longest running play is set to take centre stage at Australia's oldest theatre. Hobart's Theatre Royal playing host to Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap, the mystery thriller continuing to keep audiences on the edge of their seat 70 years since its first performance.
It's very engaging because you become involved in trying to discover who the murderer is.
It's really special. It's an iconic piece, getting to be a part of something that's so beloved, and you can see why, getting to hear the audience be so engaged.
Tasmanians looking to help crack the murder mystery can see the show until June 22.
This weekend feels like a championship game for the Chargers men's coach, needing to come up against the Sandringham Sabres, who are in blistering form and stocked with top-tier players.
It's basically an NBL team that would compete well. We're not going to step backwards. I'm sure Ollie Angerstein's going to love going up against JLA, and I'm sure our imports are going to want to take a best opportunity against Shea Illy and Tanner Krebs.
4-10, the Tawns are running out of time to find their groove and make finals with just 8 games remaining.
It's possible for sure to at least get more than half, but we have to be focused, we have to be locked in, and it's going to take a collective effort.
They'll be without Keely Frolling for the foreseeable future. She's off to Japan for a pre-Olympic camp with the Opals. As the dust starts to settle on the NWFL's third All-Stars win, the region's fast making a name for itself as a powerhouse of women's footy. Skipper Olivia Smith can see an even brighter future building for the Northwest in her other role as Wynyard's under-14 coach.
I don't know what's up with the Northwest, but we've always had just a bunch of amazing young talent, even coming through our under-14 girls program. There's so much talent there. Yeah, it's just amazing to see how many girls are starting to get back into footy.
Making her VFLW debut for Collingwood last month has been a balancing act for Olivia between state duties and the goal of nabbing an AFLW contract. Hobart product Max Giuliani is off to his first Olympics, qualifying for the 200-metre freestyle in last night's final, 1.8 seconds off Ian Thorpe's Commonwealth record time.
I'm so relieved. I don't usually get nervous, but I was, insanely nervous. Just so happy to get the job done.
Ariane Titmus cruising into tonight's finals for 200 free, more than a second clear. Noah Camperard missing Olympic qualification in the 800 free this morning, despite finishing third fastest in the final. Over in the UK, Hurricane Riley Meredith recorded his career best figures on his first trip to Lords, sending Middlesex packing in the T20 Blast, taking 4 wickets for just 12 runs in his 4-over spell. Somerset then cruising to a 9-wicket victory. The Kookaburras will finish the Hockey Pro League on top of the standings after a win over Germany in their second last game. Eddie Ockenden sneaking through a goal off a penalty corner to put Australia ahead in the final 2 minutes for a 3-2 win.
Good evening. A cool one in Hobart today, 10 degrees. Launceston reached 13, right on the June average. Devonport 12 and Burnie 11. King Island also registering the high of 13. Flinders Island, Low Head and St Helens 12. Smithton, Friendly Beaches and Ooze all 11. Grove and Strawn 10. Lyawini just made it into positive territory. The west, central and south had the cloud today in the 24 hours to 9 a.m. 60 millimetres fell at Lake Burberry, while today just 9 millimetres at Pine Forest Moor on the overland track. The frontal band now over the Tasman Sea. A series of thunderstorms lay just off New South Wales, some high cloud moving over Western Australia. Now tomorrow the high over Victoria extends a ridge to our west, towards a second high actually to our south, a strange little trough over the Bight. Cool breezes again tomorrow, southwesterlies at 15 to 25 knots, more variable over the west coast, swells at 4.5 metres. And a minor flood warning has been issued for the South Esk River. Hobart, a high of 13 and partly cloudy. Tomorrow, the chance of a shower for Cygnet, 12 the top and 13 for New Norfolk. Launceston, a top of 12, morning frost, partly cloudy as well for Devonport, 13 the high and just 10 for Campbelltown. Burnie tomorrow can expect 12 and partly cloudy weather, a shower or 2 for Strawn, 11 and 13 the top for Smithton. St Helens tomorrow 13 and partly cloudy, same for Swansea, partly cloudy for Fingal, 3 overnight, 11 the high tomorrow. On Friday, morning frost and fog and fine apart from a light shower over the south. Similar weather for Saturday, just the chance of a shower over the south and east, and on Sunday showers over Hobart and up the east coast. 19 in Perth tomorrow. A shower on the way for Adelaide, partly cloudy weather in Melbourne, Canberra and Sydney, and sunny weather for Brisbane, 21 the high. And right now it's cold and cloudy. I've just noticed, Kim, I've still got my tags on from my hospital procedure today, and funnily enough, Heidi, Carol and all the team wanted me to give them a shout out, but we don't do that, do we?
You never cease to amaze me. That is all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.